Welcome everybody to the Staffing in the Equine Assisted Services Industry Call. Region 11 is hosting this call in September of 2021, and we are glad you are all here today. To start, we have a couple of poll questions that Chrissy's going to pop on your screen. So if you are able, go ahead and respond to those. That'll help us get an idea of who's on the call, and it'll help guide our discussion. I don't know if these will come back on the recording. So the first question is, which state are you from? California, Hawaii, Nevada, or if you're joining from outside of Region 11?
I answered the question. Yeah, but this is for this meeting is being recorded.
Okay. 86% of respondents said California, 14% Hawaii, or excuse me, Nevada. I know Chrissy's from Hawaii and nobody yet from outside Region 11. Okay, your primary role at your center: executive director, program director, instructor, or credentialed staff. Are you a volunteer coordinator? Do you work primarily in the barn? Are you a board member, a volunteer, or something else? Okay, 67% of us here are executive directors primarily, or that's your biggest hat. 33% are program directors, and no other primary representation this evening, also as expected. Okay, the final question is about hiring, and it's a check all that apply. So which position or positions are your center or are you hiring for at this time? Credentialed professional, administrative or office staff, barn or equine care, facility or maintenance person, or are you not hiring at this time? Okay, 57% of people on the call have said that they are hiring for a credentialed professional. Nobody else is hiring for anything. And in fact, 43% say they are not hiring at this time. Okay. All right, we've got one person added to the call. Thanks, Chrissy, for the poll questions. Leslie, glad you are here. Leslie Jacobs, we've got two Leslies on this call. Leslie Jacobs and Brenda Falco coming in. All right, thank you all for joining us. The poll questions that were just thrown out just kind of were to help me guide the conversation a little bit. I think first what I'd like to do is I'll call on each of you I see as you guys are presented on my Zoom call here. And I'd like to know again who you are, where you're from, and if you are hiring right now. So Chrissy is in my top tile here. Chrissy, would you start? Where are you from, and is your center currently hiring?
Sure, thanks, Nicole. I am Chrissy Stout from Haku Baldwin Center on the island of Maui in Hawaii. Also the Hawaii State Chair for Region 11. We are, at this point, if we had enough horses, we would probably be hiring more instructors. So that is the primary issue. Instructor hiring is secondary. So that is on our radar. It's just kind of like a tricky puzzle to move forward at the moment.
Okay, so your primary concern is actually horses. Okay.
I suspect in an island that is hard.
The logistics are a little more challenging, yeah.
Thanks, Chrissy. Okay, my next Zoom square is Jennifer.
Oh, me. I am Jen McWhorter. I work at Giant Steps in Petaluma in Northern California. I am the Northern California person. We are not currently hiring at the moment, but we are making plans as to how we can grow with the growth of our program.
So are you short right now, Jen, on horses or participants or volunteers?
Kind of short, a little bit short on volunteers for we're not right this second, but we're about to add on a bunch of people. And when they come, we're a little panicked. And horses, no, we're doing okay. I mean, our horses are getting kind of old. And so we do have to start having a plan for what to replace them. But no, we just did hire a new volunteer coordinator, and literally like a couple of weeks ago. So we're okay at the moment. And that hopefully with the volunteer coordinator, we will therefore get the volunteers.
Great. Great. Sounds like things are pretty balanced there, which is nice to hear. I think you might be the anomaly this evening, but I'm glad you're here. I'll go next. I'm kind of in the middle here. My name is Nicole. I am the Central California State Chair from Region 11's leadership team. I am leading this evening's call. Outside of the regional leadership team, I am also the Director of Services or the Program Director for Happy Trails Riding Academy. We are a premier accredited center right in the center of California in the Tulare-Visalia area. And we are short on people. We are staff short on horses and also short on volunteers, not short on people who are interested in participating with us. So I'm really excited to hear from each of you how things are going. And I'm going to send it to Max.
Hi, so I'm Max Freitas. I'm the executive director, instructor, all of those. Should have been a multiple probably for that original questionnaire. We could use another horse. We certainly could use volunteers, and I'm not actively recruiting staff, but down the road, it would be great to have a driving instructor who also might be able to teach some lessons as well. I'll just say I teach at the junior college, the equine science department, and it is overall, the college is incredibly low on students. So it's not just a function of what we're experiencing. I had my stable management class canceled for this semester. Multiple classes have been canceled. I work in the work experience department. I went down because I'm such a tenured employee, I'm 30% of what I have ever been before. So this isn't a phenomena that's just related to therapeutic riding. It's across the board. So, and as a result, I can't, let alone paid staff, can't get volunteers. And that prevents adding, as you said, Jen, or whoever said it, the influx of new students is there. Supporting them is what the critical need is. So for me, it's more about volunteers than it is, and a horse or two. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Great. Thank you for your intro, Max. And I think I'm going to come back to you later in the call, particularly about the junior college connection that you have. That's awesome. I'm glad that you shared that. Thank you for being here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Leslie Gardner, can I call on you next? Are you in a spot that you can share?
I am. I'm pulled over. Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Gardner. I'm the executive director of Happy Trails. As Nicole told you, we are looking for another certified instructor. And with that, just like everybody else, growth is, threefold. We need an instructor. We need additional horses as well as volunteers. Now, we truly have volunteers coming out of our ears right now, but they are all sidewalkers. And so we're looking for those people who have a little bit of animal experience, not necessarily just horse experience, but have some kind of animal experience that we can bring along as potential leaders. So that's us. And so and so yeah, I'm very interested because Max, we have also teamed up with a couple of our local JCs and Fresno State, fairly close university, to look for potential employees and tell them about our industry. I mean, I think that that's something that a lot of people don't know that are equine major, that there's actually, this is a viable industry. So that's us.
Awesome. Thanks, Leslie. Joy, you are my next Zoom tile. Are you in a spot where you can introduce yourself?
Yes. So we're in Pasadena, California, and we're part of the Pasadena Equestrian Center. And so consequently, we're packed in into how the city operates. And so we've had some very heavy COVID restrictions. We have our own health department, so we were closed for almost a year. We're just starting to open back up. And we, because of that, our main fundraisers that we normally have were canceled. And we've had to cut back tremendously in order to just survive and feed the horses. So we've been in a very difficult situation. We're in our 25th year, soon to go into our 26th year. And I think in all the years that I know I founded it, and all the years that I've been with Mach 1, this has been the hardest year that we've had. And our horses are aging. However, we're still able to use them. We have some universities around, like Cal State LA, Caltech, I mean, numerous universities. We normally get our volunteers from there, especially in the kinesiology classes. But of course, they're not having their classes right now. They haven't been able to come out. So that's been one hit that we've had. We have students, we have a waiting list, but again, a lot of it are the volunteers, and especially with the social distancing because of our vulnerable population. So I think that's going to start loosening up for us, but it's been a very difficult time. And at times I think maybe I've been doing it too long. But anyway, we're on our way back, I think. It's just going to take a lot to do that. You know, when my goal was to start the program, my goal was to be a beacon in the city because it is my city and I've been very active with the city. So that was my goal, and my goal was to build a center. We started at a club across the street, the Flint Ridge Riding Club, and we moved a couple of times, but we always had our connection with the city, and they gave us some land and we built a center. So that was a goal. We completed that. And now the next step would be to grow it. And I don't really have the gifts for that. So I would be looking for someone to replace me as an executive director. But right now we're all volunteer. That's about the story, I think.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Joy. Thanks for introducing yourself. Glad you're here.
Yeah, me too.
Good. Good. My next Zoom tile is Leslie Jacobs. Leslie, you are on mute.
Let's try that again.
There you
Hi,
are.
sorry I'm late. I'm in South Georgia, so we're a little bit later in the day than some of you all. And I was just getting home from church and realized, oh, I need to get on this meeting. I'm the founder and director at Jacob's Ladder, and we've been running since 1999, so for quite a while. I had an assistant instructor, and when COVID hit, we weren't making enough money, and she chose to pursue her other career and kind of left me. And she now volunteers when she has the ability to do so, but not dependably anymore. So we're real short of volunteers, and we are looking for a horse or two, but I struggle to have enough volunteers to run the program as effectively as I would like to. And we're near a college, and we have a lot of interest from the college students, but we don't have a lot of success with them showing up. So we don't have reliable help. We're also near an Air Force base, and they are also interested in what we do. And we have participants actually that, receive services here. But again, they're not always reliable help due to shift changes and being deployed and that kind of thing. So circumstances just are, preventing us from being able to grow our program, because we just can't be, I can't do everything. And I live on site, and I feed the horses, and I'm the doctor, and I'm the secretary, and, the wearer of all the hats. So, you do what you can, and we are still going, and I'm too stubborn to quit. But it would be nice to have somebody in the line to kind of pick up the slack and to help with the challenges and going forward. So I think we're all a lot in the same boat.
Sure. And Leslie, can I clarify, you said you're the only one there right now wearing any of the hats? Everybody else is a
Pretty much
semi-reliable volunteer?
everybody's a volunteer. Mhm.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. You are,
Yes, I appreciate being
furthest
included.
away.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Leslie.
Uh-huh.
Martha, I know you said you're feeding and watering. Are you in a spot that you can introduce yourself?
Yes, I am. I can
Go
even
ahead.
turn. So I'm from Dream Power Horsemanship in Gilroy. That's a horse kicking the wall. And we're actually in a pretty good spot right now. My biggest disappointment during COVID was that we had a bunch of marvelous volunteers move out of state. They all sold their houses and cashed in on this crazy housing market and moved out of state. And so we lost some really great people that I thought we were going to have forever. And COVID sort of changed their job situation, and they made them say, hey, we got to get out of this California market while we can. So that was really disappointing. We have plenty of horses right now. You guys, I get offered horses almost every day. If anybody needs horses, not good ones, just horses. But if you're looking for something, let me know, because we're getting offered a lot of them because people don't want them anymore. And right now I have more volunteers than I have jobs for, which is sad because you'll lose them. If you don't give them something to do, you'll lose them. So I'm trying to come up with stuff for volunteers to do so I can keep them when I have more stuff going on. We're not hiring anybody for pay right now, but we are always taking licensed and pre-licensed psychotherapists. And so we've got more of those coming, but we're not hiring anybody for pay at this moment. But we're doing good. I mean, we got our horse lot is full. Our guys are old, but they're all in good shape. So, but they're all old. But it's, we're in pretty good shape right now. It's just, I was so disappointed at my rock star volunteers who moved away and are continuing to do so.
Sure. I think that's probably a similar story, at least from others in California. I can say for Happy Trails in Central California, we've probably had close to a dozen people leave in the last year between families, participants, and volunteers. And a lot of them were super solid volunteers that are looking to get out of California. So you are not alone there. Glad you're here, Martha. Thank you.
People in Nevada may be picking them up.
Okay, Nikki, we'll have to know that from you. Nikki, are you in a spot where you can share?
Yes, I have my little guy with me. I'm Nikki Landa. I'm the executive director for Center for Adaptive Riding. So we're kind of in the middle of what I'm hearing. We just moved locations, so we are growing, but finding certified instructors is our biggest challenge. Right now, it's just myself and our program director who are certified. So trying to find people who we have a couple people interested in becoming certified, but we don't have the staff and time to help them get through that process. So that's kind of where our struggle is finding instructors. I just hired barn team people, so we have that support and help to take that away from myself and our program director. And as far as we have a huge wait list, and we're slowly growing and not doing it as we can take on people. We have amazing volunteer team, and that just keeps growing. I think we're getting a lot of people from California. So I think we are getting some of those volunteers from California, and then Arizona. I have a couple people who came from the National Ability Center as well recently.
Awesome, great. When you said, what did you tell me that it resonated? Oh, not having the time necessarily to bring on somebody in training. I have heard that from a lot of people too. They are desperate for credentialed professionals who are already credentialed. So that's not the first time I've heard that. Thank you for being here, Nikki. Thanks for being our Nevada rep this evening. My final Zoom tile is Kimiko. Kimiko, are you in a spot you can introduce yourself?
Yes, I am. You might hear some noise in the background, but I'll try to. So I'm the executive director for MARE in Bakersfield, California, and we're surviving, I guess you could say. It's been a rough month and a half, I would say. We had our veterans coordinator pass away from COVID, and then our program director left the beginning of the year. My barn manager left also about a week before the veterans coordinator passed away, and then my volunteer coordinator left a few days after that. So I had like my whole team that knew how to do everything was gone. So I quickly had to kind of promote the girls that were there. None of them were certified yet, so it was just trying to get, we still have our founder who is PATH certified, but getting everybody up to speed, and we lost a ton of volunteers, like you guys all said. We're in California, and a lot of people have moved away, so we ended up filling our schedule with the siblings of our writers that are able-bodied to just try to get some more experience for our instructors at an able-bodied level, so they got a little bit more comfortable as we're introducing a lot of our writers coming back. And so that helped us financially, and then it helped, still got the kids that were there, and then their, brother or sister could come and also ride. They would just ride like right after them or something like that. So it's kind of what we had to do in the interim. And I've got one that they're all very young too. They're all like under 25. So they're very sweet and working hard, but we've got one that's proving to be doing really well, but two of them just told me they're pregnant. So also adds to the mix of things. So I might have to jump out there and start teaching. But so we're surviving, we're thriving, but in an odd way, just trying to make up from a tough August in the beginning of September and we lost our main horse too. He passed away. So it was just, the whole month of August was just tough. So we're just trying to pull it together and keep the barn doors open.
Sure. It sounds like you've had a month of Mondays, Kimiko.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
I see Amy, you've jumped on the call. Amy, we're just right now finishing introductions. If you're in a spot to share, we'd love to know who you are, where you're from, and what your biggest challenge is right now at your center. If it's staffing, if it's volunteers, if it's horses, if it's something else.
Hi, sure. Thank you. Sorry, I just got home from work. So let's see. So my name is Amy Tripson. I am right now at Rock Ride-On Center for Kids in Georgetown, Texas. And we are actually looking for instructors at the moment. And so this was an opportune timing for us, as with everyone. I think, the job board has been just lighting up every day. So we're actively interviewing. And so, yeah, I think for us, it's what we've seen, and which I think is industry wide, which I've seen at other centers too, is attracting people to move to your location, providing benefits and resources for those individuals to create an enticing opportunity, which a lot of centers are not capable of doing. And so attracting talent and people from different locations, there are instructors out there, but like, how do we get them to us? So I think it's an interesting discussion, and I'm excited to be on the call. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. A nice transition into kind of what today's discussion is, of course, was mainly centered originally around hiring credentialed professionals. For probably most of the month of July, I was watching very closely the Job Center on PATH's website, and it was up to like 150 posts by mid-August when PATH was offering the free job postings for centers. It was wild. Every day there was something new, and it was primarily credentialed professionals or people who were looking to become credentialed professionals. And there were some duplicate posts, centers, asking again, reaching out again. So I'm interested to know, for those of you guys who are, I know Amy said you're actively interviewing for credentialed professionals. For those who are hiring a credentialed professional or even an instructor in training, if you have the capacity to do that, has anybody got any bites from that? Has anybody received a phone call or an email or anything, a Facebook message to say, hey, I saw you're hiring. Can you tell me more about it? Max, yes. If you're, go ahead, Max.
Okay, thanks. I had 7 of our volunteers who are quite capable express interest in finding out more about certification. So I ran a 2.5 hour little meeting to go over the process and what was entailed and all the rest of it. And none of them are following through. They said it's too much time of a commitment, that they just can't do it. And I have to say, that's not new. I mean, I've run ads before, and I've had many people say, what do you mean I have to be certified? So finding certified instructors is, and the impetus for them to want to do this, in my experience, is really, really tough. And I don't know if CHA has a better, I talked to them just the other day. I don't know if they have a better turnover, or not turnover, but follow through rate in people that are interested. But I'll tell you, it's not happening with PATH. And I'd love to hear if other people have had that same experience.
Will you clarify, Max, which experience? The
process of becoming an instructor one. I mean, there aren't very many instructors that are certified currently out there. It would be neat to see the statistics, and I'm sure they're easy to pull up from somewhere. How many are master, advanced, and registered instructors? Whether there's any incentive to do more than the registered instructor? What is the incentive to become a registered instructor? I really don't know. And so it's a struggle, and it's expensive. CHA, when they do certifications, very often people can stay at their sites and go through the certification. When I went for my advanced, it was at a time when CHA and NARA had combined and were doing certifications for both agencies concurrently at the same time at the same location, which was an incredible and wonderful experience. Now, I don't know what happened to quell that whole experience, but it didn't last long. And so, it's expensive for people to take the time off, to find a place to stay for the 3-4 days, whatever it is. And the whole process seems to be, at least to the 7 people that went through it with me, daunting and not something they're willing to do. And that didn't make a difference whether it was driving or riding an instructor.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Max. To speak a little bit to your thought about how many people are being credentialed, where are they going? At our center, we've had the same discussion. We get these numbers from PATH that say, you know, membership is up or certifications are up. And I have an email here from July 10th that PATH sent out. It's from the accreditation application update. And it was actually about the numbers about people who are applying for credentialed professional certification of some kind. So the numbers here at that time said total number of CTRI credential holders, including those who have transitioned from TRI to CTRI, it was 3,100. So spent some time myself going through, you know, now that the OSCW on-site, yes, OSCW, now that that's done away with, I don't have any idea what those numbers look like, but we had the same question at our facility. You know, we've got these numbers coming in that say, hey, there's interest in the industry. People want to continue, you know, becoming certified, but where are they going? Nobody's phone is ringing off the hook saying, I just got certified. So I don't know if those people are being certified through a center and they're staying at that center, or they're holding on to it for a time when it's a better idea to be working in the nonprofit industry. I don't know. The other thing I will say that in talking with other folks in our industry is you have to really want to do this job. This is not, of course, a money-making job. I know a lot of us here have been here for a long time. I know Joy mentioned she is the founder and wearer of all hats at her center. And I know that that's not uncommon either. And that people are not, it's not a great time to start in a job like that or in a career like that. You have to really want to do this full-time and be willing to work more than full-time to get it done, or it is kind of a per diem deal. It is, I think somebody else mentioned there are people that want to work, but you know, life changes, they're pregnant, they want to be part-time, they want to change states. Amy's talking about how do we attract people from other areas, and it is hard, I think, as a nonprofit industry to entice someone to go through that credential, to put them through that credential and give the time and get it done. I think those are all really good points, Max. Those are very relevant, and we're hearing that a lot. Jen, go ahead.
So I was just wondering if the new way of going through to become an instructor is helpful for people. I mean, it seems that if you don't have to take that time off to go on a, you know, a workshop, I'm just wondering.
So has anybody on this call taken anybody through the new, mentored anyone through the new CTRI process?
Sorry, go ahead.
We are currently putting someone through it, yes.
Okay, Jen, yes. Max, I noticed you shaking your head. No, have not done that yet. We have not done that at Happy Trails yet. Our most recently certified instructor got in right under the wire with the former way. Amy, have you taken someone through the new CTRI start to finish?
We she has passed the last part. She hasn't done the written exam yet. And so that's what we're waiting on. But she's also in China, so that provided a different perspective for us. And so our challenges were slightly different based on that logistic. But I mean, I think speaking to the question, you still have to find a center, you still have to do the hours, you still need the mentorship. The only thing that which is even more so really, like, you need the additional sign off on hours and the additional education. And so really the only thing that you're cutting out as far as maybe logistics would be the on-site workshop, which may or may not be a benefit if someone could do it in a weekend, you know, versus extended time at a center or at other stables getting those hours in. So I think it could go either way.
Yeah, so the person that we have, we're actually helping out somebody else in another center, but they don't have a full time, so we're actually keeping her for part of us as well. But it's been the full support writers. We've not had full support writers until just now. So we're just now being able to get her to finish up those hours.
Okay, that's helpful perspective. Thanks to all of you. So yes, the credentialing process, that's new to us at Happy Trails, and helpful to know that it's not necessarily easier for people just because the on-site workshop isn't there anymore. And I know a lot of centers have expressed concern about that, the bar being lowered a little bit and the onus becoming more the centers when you're looking to hire someone. I've heard that shared as well. So.
Well, and CHA still does the on-site process of, workshop training and certification. I think PATH needs to look at, why is that? In my experience, having gone through multiple CHA and PATH workshops and certifications, it's just like I've been teaching online, right? Because the college was all Zoom for a long time. It is not for everybody. And for most people, it's very, very difficult. And that in-person, EQUED and I was an instructor evaluator. That was, I think, an invaluable experience to be hands-on, in-person, getting direct feedback. Even it was different centers, so you had to cope with all those adjustments. I really find it unfortunate that we've moved away from that. I don't have a problem, however, with people doing writing tests and submitting a video, because as a center, that was really tough on our horses to have people come in and have to ride using our horses. And so that's part of why I stopped doing them. I had too many bad experiences with people who really couldn't ride trying to pass with our horses. And so, I kind of said, no, that's not what we want to do anymore. But in the old days, old days, because I've been in this for 30 years, you submitted your riding video and then you did an on-site workshop and tested your teaching knowledge and all the rest of it. So, I served on the NARA board for 2 terms in the process when we were going through PATH, changing it from NARA to PATH. And I'm not ready to go back on that board, but I really think the board needs to look at how we're doing this and what are the challenges to the industry and what's best for our upcoming instructors and how to encourage people to become part of the industry.
I agree, Max. I think that's a huge part of where I landed in trying to plan this call. Was there's not a good answer for a lot of this. There's not a, hey, we'll host a job fair. Hey, we'll post a job post on Facebook and Member Connections and, the PATH website. There's really not a great solution, especially knowing that people are not just focused on credentialed professionals. That's a huge push right now because the balance is so heavy swung toward people are looking for services, and centers can't keep up with that demand between volunteer, horse, and staffing shortages. That's what I hear kind of collectively across the board with everyone I've spoken with at this point. So what I want to talk a little bit about is, first of all, where are the community connections that you're finding to be that help, if at all? I know Leslie brought up, and I mentioned Leslie Gardner and myself both mentioned we've started that relationship with the junior college in town because we did get 3 phone calls within a week saying, we want to be a part of your industry. How do I do it? And having to explain that it's not, of course, horse therapy, right? I don't know if anybody else's ears bleed when they hear horse therapy now, but how do I get to be a part of that? How do we educate the public? What community relationships can we start to say, if you're pursuing an equine certificate, this is an option for you, and clarify what it is, that you're not a therapist, you're the equine advocate. Thanks, Max, for being your horse's advocate there, saying we're not doing the bad videos anymore. Good call. But how do you educate that? So for Happy Trails, I'll speak to that. We, again, reached out to the junior college to say, we know you have an equine certificate. What do you do with that? It sounds goofy on paper. What are you going to do with an equine certificate? Know that this is an option for you, and you have a community partner that you can come watch. You can become a volunteer. You can talk to an instructor. I'm interested to know from others on the call, do you have community connections like that? What are your strong community connections?
Well, I think I already gave my input because we're near universities, but a lot of the students there want to be PTs and OTs. So we have an advantage in that when they come out and do their hours from kinesiology, we can almost put them right into a sidewalking position right away because they already have that feeling that they need to protect the rider. They already understand the movement. So that has been very helpful for us. So I would think if a school had a kinesiology class, we're mentoring someone right now to become an instructor here, and she graduated from Biola in kinesiology, and so she decided that this is something she wanted to do, you know, as her life's goal. So, but other than that, I mean, we have a junior college too. I just don't find them to be as committed, say, as finding someone that actually wanted to go into a field. And as a mentoring center, I'm just finding this very difficult anyway, trying to go into that CTRI situation, because I just have this sense that people don't have the horse knowledge that we used to have when we all did it, you know, and we had to take a video of ourselves riding and then do the workshop and all of that. So I don't even know if I'd want to hire someone that's a CTRI unless I was sure they could get on one of our horses and school them if we had a problem.
Sure.
So I think for me personally, that's one of the big issues that I worry about. I had someone coming, she wanted to become an instructor. She wanted to be mentored. She did a lot of clinics with Buck Brannaman. She tried to get herself approved through PATH because she wanted to use his name. And, you know, I had said to her right away that I didn't think they would accept trainers, which of course they don't. And so she was refused on that. And
it was a good thing.
And it was a good thing because there's no way she could do what we do in the arena. So I think this is something that really concerns me a lot, because I think if we don't have people coming in where we can actually trust them to come in and be an instructor and be able to take on the responsibility of how to spot a problem before it happens. And I think that's half of what we do. I mean, when we're in the arena, we want to spot something that happens before it happens. And so a lot of their timing isn't what I would think would be what is necessary. So I'm kind of, you know, we're doing it. As I said, you know, we've got one that actually wants to be an instructor. The other one, I just actually had to have a talk with her and I said, you know, I don't know that this is for you. I mean, she can probably find another mentoring center somewhere, but I think this is the industry that's so changed, at least for those of us that have been in it a while, and we're kind of wondering what's out there, what's going to happen.
Sure. So certainly striking the balance between somebody that's has some disability awareness, of course, but I mean, the biggest we do that sets us apart is the equine. And so knowing that and seeing a spook before it happens and stopping it is critical to the safety of the nature of what we do. So I hear you, Joy, striking the balance between somebody who's well educated and motivated, but also has that horse sense, so to speak, to know what it is that they're getting into. It's not just a touchy-feely job. You really have to have that horse experience. That's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
So that's my feeling. Mm-hmm.
Great. Yes, I see a comment from Amy in the chat here. See if my computer can handle opening that. Okay. It's not done that. So Chrissy, if you're there, do you mind reading Amy's chat?
Sure. Amy says your hiring process can also vet all those responsibilities, writing and teaching assessments.
Yes, yes. And I have heard that with a lot of centers too, as the credentialing has changed, that centers are taking that a lot more seriously. Before the transition happened, I know even before then, Happy Trails was really good about their vetting. You know, you need to teach a class, you need to watch a class that we do, you need to teach a class that we do, and you need to ride for us as well. So having a thorough screening process, like you said, Amy, is huge in making sure you're hiring the person that you're comfortable having, you know, accepting their liability, essentially. Okay, I realize we're close to 6:30 here, California time, and we were going to finish in an hour. So the last question I have is for anybody here, any creative programming ideas, anything that you guys are doing to essentially deal with what's in front of you, knowing that, you know, maybe you're short on volunteers, you're short on staff. What kind of creative ways are you at your center including or trying to continue with programming, knowing that you're short in certain areas?
So I just wanted to ask, did most people find that they can get staff, whether it be, you know, administrative, you know, instructors from their volunteer pools? Is that where most people find their people?
That's a great question. Has anybody hired a staff that was previously a volunteer?
We haven't hired a staff that from a volunteer, but we've always kept a running list of potential volunteers that would like to be maybe in their second career become an instructor. And so we were really excited when we were ready to put on somebody else and thought, okay, now we can mentor, we'll get our list out. We have 7 or 8 people on the list, and you know, their lives had changed and they weren't ready to. So we have maybe 1 or 2 have helped with as a class manager or a barn manager we have hired, but we have not had the best of luck finding instructors. And I think whoever addressed that, saying that, you know, it was a lot more than what they thought was going on as an instructor. So so we haven't been super successful. We still have lists, and you know, hoping that we will find that.
So at Haku Baldwin Center, most of our instructor staff over the years have been started as volunteers, including myself. So that has been historically a good place to find staff and instructors. At the moment, we do have a few people. We started an internship program for the first time for a therapeutic writing programming, so we could do dual duty, vet people, you know, for new hires potentially, build up instructors, and also offer mentorship through the CTRI process. That has been super challenging though, because we don't have those teaching hours in those spots for the amount of people who would like to get certified. And then we do have a similar issue that someone mentioned earlier. You know, when we sit down as a mentor, when I sit down and go through the process, I think it's an eye opener for people of how much work they have to do to dedicate and how much of the expense would be on them at this point. We really don't have it in our budget right now to pay for someone to go through the CTRI process. Although we do offer through the internship, that's a way we can provide mentorship for people in that education piece. But yeah, that's kind of a challenge.
Nicole, I had one idea. You were asking about programming. So I was just looking for groups I have a bunch of psychotherapy interns, master's level interns who need hours. And so we were kind of just floundering and trying to figure out what do we do. And we decided that the biggest need in our community right now with kids is for anxiety, that children's anxiety from COVID and going back to school, it is through the roof. So we have done 2 or 3 now groups focused specifically on anxiety. And so we have master's level interns leading the groups, but I mean, honestly, you could just do, it doesn't take that, but it's just acknowledging the fact that, that children are dealing with a lot of anxiety about COVID, about going back to school, about being in person after having been home for a year and a half. And so we're continuing, and we have waiting lists of kids whose parents have identified them as being super anxious, that they wanted to get outdoors, outside, around the animals. So we're doing it mostly with the minis on the ground. We're not riding. We have one riding group now as well, but it's mostly with the minis on the ground and just doing different activities with the minis and the chickens and the goats and whatever. And it's been super easy and fun. And we have long waiting lists of people who want to join those groups. So if you're looking for if you need something else to do and you want to do it unmounted, I'd highly recommend Anxiety for Children.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Martha. Will you tell me just a couple of details about that? Are those, you mentioned their groups, circumstance, like they just come out for like a Saturday from like 1 to 3? What is that? What does your programming look like for that?
So right now we're doing it 1 hour per week for 4 weeks. And so we call the group Mighty Minis, and they have to sign up. You pay for the month, and it's 4 weeks and 1 hour each, and they have different activities. And the kids have really been highly anxious. But yeah, so it's Mighty Minis, and it's around different kinds of, it's basically coping skills is all it is coping skills. So, any school teacher, or anybody could come up with a curriculum for it. But yeah, so we've had 2 of them. We just finished. We're about to start 2 more. And I have like 20 kids on a waiting list who want to become a Mighty Mini.
Wow. That's awesome. That sounds like a very creative solution to a community demand. I know a lot of centers are shifting program focus as community demand changes. So that's a great example. Thanks, Martha.
You don't need to be super close to the kids. So there's no sidewalkers breathing down your neck or whatever. You don't have to be that close to them because you're outdoors with the minis, and they're close enough, but it's not like you're being a sidewalker. So.
Great.
Martha, I had a question for you. I apologize if you mentioned this already, but what is your age range for the Mighty Minis program?
Honestly, we couldn't answer. So we chose, I think, 6 to 10, but we had kids 4 and 5-year-olds wanting to come. We have 12 and 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds wanting to come. So we're doing it like 6 to 10. Actually, I made it lower. Then we did one that was like 5 to 8. Could be any. Honestly, whatever age you put out there, every parent, no matter what their kid's age is going to contact you. But we advertised it as 6 to 10. It ended up being like 5 to 12, but we had them in different groups.
Great. I know there are some centers that have minis or smaller members of their herd that are sometimes lost with what to do. So that sounds like a great way to incorporate the smaller side of the herd.
Coping skills. Just Google coping skills and you'll have plenty of activities.
Awesome. Thanks, Martha. Leslie Jacobs, I saw that you unmuted yourself. Did you have, are you guys working with something creatively down in Georgia?
Something similar like that. I did get my equine specialist through PATH years ago and decided that since we were having trouble with volunteers, that it would not be a bad idea to travel down that mental health avenue as well. And so we are in kind of a pilot program with several school students. I haven't reached out to actually schools and stuff yet, but private individuals who've contacted me about, my teenager has a lot of anxiety and we have a lot of this going on and anger problems. And so we're also doing, some coping skills, groundwork, just being in the barn, being in the presence of the horses. And, I've found that I can do a lot of that without a lot of additional hands-on, as long as either the parent or a counselor or somebody wants to stay with the young person. And we're not doing psychotherapy. We're not doing any of that. We're doing, if you want to call it equine assisted learning, if you want to call it, equine facilitated learning, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of what we're exploring right now, just to try to help pay the bills and to bring people in. And sometimes, truthfully, I'll tell parents, this girl shows a lot of potential. Maybe she'd be a good volunteer now that she's kind of dealt with some of her own stuff. And then that way, we're growing the program sometimes through that referral, and that helps a lot.
That's great. I know for our center in Central California, over the course of the last year, we've seen a huge uptick in calls for people who are seeking mental health services. And we started a pilot program with that. And the mental health professional we were working with wound up taking a different job, still as a mental health professional, but elsewhere. So we lost her services. So we're kind of back to square one with that. But it sounds like you guys have figured out a way to incorporate a non-clinical, but still, you know, like a character building or a coping skills type group that a CTRI or an ESMHL could deliver, and that it could be on the ground. It doesn't have to be mounted. It doesn't have to take a lot of volunteer support, but still meeting those needs. That's awesome.
Exactly. And it helps people to realize too that we're more than just a therapeutic riding center where all we do is put people on horseback and try to assist them, you know, physically or emotionally or whatever. So, yeah.
Sure. No, thank you for that, Leslie. I appreciate that.
Thank you for what you're doing.
We're nearing the end of kind of what I had in mind, our scheduled calls. So I'll open the floor to any last minute creative ideas before I close us out. Anything else that you found is working really well? Things that have been successful that you really didn't expect, ways that you're incorporating maybe lesser used members of the herd? No? Okay. The last resource I had kind of on my radar, I'm going to see if I can switch windows here in my computer, was an email, just as we're talking about kind of the staff, the credentialing, those kinds of things. PATH sent out an email June 28th, and the subject line was rehiring tips. And it included another extension of the job postings, but at the bottom it had links to additional resources. And it included a sample interview questions to ask instructors, things like that. And I printed out a couple of those. I thought those were kind of helpful, as I'm hearing a lot of people say we're getting a lot of calls, or maybe we have had some community interest in what it takes to become an instructor. But I think a big theme that I'm hearing from kind of the group collectively this evening is needing to educate the public a little bit more about what we do, as far as, you know, what services do we offer? Who are we? You know, it's not horse therapy. The horses are doing fine. Thank you for asking. But what services are included under that EAS umbrella? What does it take to become a credentialed professional? Amy, thanks. I can see your chat popping up. I can't reply, but thanks for being here. But educating the public, finding those community resources. I know Maxie mentioned that enrollment is down in a lot of junior colleges, which is a really helpful thing to know, as that's one of our big partnerships. It's helpful to know that it may not be that people aren't interested. It may just be that people are not there. They don't, you know, they're not there where they normally would be. So that avenue isn't necessarily available to centers where it used to be. That's really helpful to know. And also that, you know, the creative programming, there are things to do. There are ways to reach people that haven't previously needed services, and there are ways to be creative about that when we are short-staffed. I know everybody is short-handed in some way, be it in funds, staff, horses, or volunteers. And so know that the services that you're providing are obviously worthwhile. They are reaching people that lost a lot more maybe than others during the pandemic. So everybody give yourself a pat on the back. We're doing great work. Found a heart job, and it's a cool job. It's the coolest job in the world. My contact information it's on the PATH website. And if I reached you as a center in Central California, you have my contact information there. But know that the Region 11 leadership team is here to support you. Chrissy and Jen are part of that team. You also have Caitlin Seward as the Region 11 rep, Kat O'Brien in Nevada, and Courtney Malore is our communications chair. And in Southern California, we have Lauren Tuttle. So if you're here from Southern California, find us somewhere. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and hope you got something out of the call.
Thank you, Nicole.
Sure. Chrissy, you can stop recording.